what I will aim to do today is I'll give you a general overview of what we have covered so far. We'll do an intro to the design part of the RISE challenge, and then we'll look at 3 sessions today. I think I'll aim to cover at least the 2 sessions, the setting the project goal and brainstorming ways to achieve the goal. And if we have time, we can cover the measuring success. We are looking only on the design part today. The next week, we will be looking at the plan side of the RISE challenge. So a quick recap, what are the parts of the RISE project? If you remember when I was mentioning about your project, this is, if you have an account with RISE already, this is what your application would look like. There is part 1, which is about you. There's 2 questions that you'll have to answer, aspirations and overcoming challenges. Part 2 is the RISE challenge that we are addressing throughout the webinars. You have the focus and research, design and plan, and act and reflect. We have already covered the focus and research with 2 webinars before. Those have been recorded and shared, and I'm sure we can share those links as well in the chat shortly. And we are starting today with the second part of the RISE challenge project, which is the design and plan. Okay, so we'll cover design today. And then we still have act and reflect to go with. And the third part of the RISE challenge is the quiz and playing the game, which you can already start at any point. Going back to the slides. The focus and research really looks at establishing a focus area for your RISE project, presenting an overview of your research. So you do your research and see exactly how the issue that you're trying to address is and how you want to address it, and reflect about your thinking and assumptions after you've done the research. Right, so what's your findings and how have that impacted your thoughts? And then you have the design and plan, where you have an outline or decide your project goals, describe the solution that you would like to design, and set some realistic measures that you want to look at your goals. And then you have an overview of ethical consideration that you'll be doing as you're working on your designing and the planning of the solution. And then once we go to the act and reflect, it's about actioning this side of the story. So it's about putting in action the plan that you have designed for your focus area. Okay, and then you'll do a reflection on your journey on throughout your project. What challenges have you faced, and how and what lessons have you really learned from that experience? Okay, so in today's workshop, it will aim to help you clearly formulate the goal for your project and design that are best for achieving the goals that we'll be looking at today. When you're answering the design and plan section of the RISE project, these are the 3 questions that we ask you to answer. So after you have worked on your project, this is what, when you're recording your video or when you're answering via the text responses, these are the 3 questions that you will need to address as you are responding. So the first one is, what are your intended project goals and rationale for why you have chosen them? What is the solution and project plan you have designed to achieve your goals? And what ethical considerations did you identify and address before starting your project? Okay, so these are the 3 questions. Today we will cover the first question, and then in the next session next week we will cover the two questions down here. So let's start. The first really point that I'd like to cover is why do I need to have a design for my project? And this is a really important point, which, as you can see here, I've outlined one point at least, which is there are many ways in which a goal can be reached. And carrying out a project design means carefully thinking about and evaluating all possible approaches to how the project may be completed. It also means incorporating the findings from your research that you have done in the first part to make informed decisions, considering all the people that might be affected by the project as well, and how do you want to include them in the design of your solution and the implementation as well, and thinking deeply and carefully about all the possible consequences, both intended and unintended, of the project. Now, creating a project design also means thinking thoughtfully about your responsibility for the outcome of the project by considering all aspects of the project that could happen. And for creating, what we will be really looking at today is, how do I create a design? How do I design a solution for my project? And as you start with setting a clear goal for the project, so that's what we will be doing today, is setting a clear goal for the project that you'll be working on. And then you'll be brainstorming backwards from that, the possible ways in which that goal can be achieved. Okay, and then in the third session, on the third sort of breakout rooms that we will be doing today, is we'll evaluate then how do we go about achieving that goal, and putting measures to really evaluate and understand whether I have been successful or not in achieving the goals that I have measured. So before I start with the first exercise, which is really setting a clear goal for your project, a clear goal will need to be three things really. The goal needs to be short, like it needs to be one sentence that you will be explaining the goal of your project. The goal also needs to be realistic, right? Considering the timeline of the RISE challenge, also the resources that you have access to, and how do you want to implement it. And also it needs to be possible to imagine the difference between this goal being achieved and this goal not being achieved, right? So you need to be able to differentiate of once this goal has been done. We'll give 3 examples, and then we can start with the first exercise. We have been using 3 examples throughout the sessions that we are running. The first example was about plastic waste in coastal areas in the Philippines, and that was the focus area. So the second example we were using, and the focus area of that, is bullying in schools. And the third example that we were doing or using was the equal opportunities for female computer game designers. Right? So that was the focus area of it. So in the first example, the plastic waste in coastal areas in the Philippines, for example, that's the example we're using. The goal, an example of a goal would be, is to create a prototype for community-based plastic waste management. Okay, so that could be an example of a goal for that. That's the major thing that I want to achieve with my project. Or in bullying in schools, that example, a goal could be is to create an effective peer support network in my school. Right? So I create a peer support network that will be available there to support those who are facing bullying, or also monitoring or building a monitoring system, whatever it is. But the goal will be to create an effective peer support network in my school, right? Very clear goal that I set. And in the third example, for equal opportunities for female computer game designers, an example of a goal could be to create inspirational materials for girls who want to become computer game designers, right? So that would be the goal. In the next session, we can look at how do I do it? How do I create the inspirational materials, or what inspiration materials I will be doing? But the main goal of my project here is to create inspiration materials for girls who want to be computer game designers, right? Just one sentence, clear. It's also realistic within the timeline of the RISE challenge, so I can create a few inspiration materials. And also, you can know if I have achieved it or not, because I need to create inspiration materials. I need to see who is using it and who is not, right? You can see some way of an impact from that. Now, those are the 3 examples. I'm going to give you a minute to think about your project. So think about your project in terms of with the examples that we've just said now. You could be, so again, what we did before is equal opportunities for female computer game designers. That was the focus area. I go out and I do my research in the different ways that we've discussed also in the previous webinar. And then the goal of the project is to create inspiration materials for girls who want to be computer game designers. So let's have a minute to think about it, and then we'll introduce the session that we'll be going in very shortly. And my colleague Anna also just posted in the chat the previous workshop recording, so you can have access to it if you haven't been able to attend the previous sessions. So in this next breakout rooms, what you'll be doing is we'll be putting you in small breakout rooms that would be between 4 to 5 people in each of those rooms. And I really hope that you will use this time to share with the people who come into your room your project. What is your project and what is the goal of your project, right? That is always a great idea, and get feedback from the people who are with you. Is the goal short and clear? Is it realistic, right? These are the type of things that we should consider talking about in that room. Don't worry if your English language is not really good. Today's session is not about selection. Today is really designed to help you formulate your goal, and the peers who will be with you in the breakout room are there to support you, make sure that your goal is actually understandable and it's clear and is realistic. Right, so please do use this time to share with the rest of the group. So what you'll be doing in this session now will be in this session for about 7 to 8 minutes. Please share with the people in your room what your project is and what is your goal. What are you trying to achieve with your project? My colleague Anna has now prepared the breakout rooms, and whenever you're ready, Anna, let's send everyone. Thank you everyone for sharing again. So the next session is about choosing the best way to achieve the goal. Now we have heard already really good examples earlier, right? Some are doing on plastic pollution in their schools, targeting teens in their schools with posters or like workshops or information sessions at those schools, and other two really good examples before, whether it's writing letters to officials and other ways, right? These are really great ways. So now if you think about the goals that you're setting, now that you have clearly formulated a project goal, you need to decide how you're going to achieve it. Now, for every goal, there are many ways in which it can be achieved. And you need to think, you need to use your thinking and imagination to consider all possible ways how you can make your goal a reality. If you have already set your mind on a particular way of achieving your goal, think of it as only one way of carrying out a project. Right? There are many other ways, as we have here: writing letters, posters, creating an online community, on face-to-face sessions. There are so many different ways as well. Now we'll be brainstorming all the possible ways you can think of achieving your goal for your project. Let your imagination go wild. Crazy ideas might actually be brilliant or contain elements within them that could enhance other ideas. So at this stage, you think of all possible ways, and then you say, okay, this is the 2 or 3 ways that I want to do it. And let's continue to use examples, the examples that we have. The third example that I've used before, the goal of the project was to create inspiration materials for girls who want to be computer game designers. Some of the possible ways to achieve this goal could be by organizing a flash mob with girls all dressed as male computer characters. Or it could be making a mini documentary featuring female computer game designers. Right? It could be writing a lesson with resources that any school can deliver, promoting career path for girls in computer game design. It could also be as sophisticated as creating an app or a platform where the girls can learn computer game design skills, or inviting 3 leading female computer game designers to a webinar with girls interested in a career in game design. And that is even, you can organize it either virtually or in person, where you bring them to the schools or to the areas where potential female computer game designers could be. Right. So these are different ways, right? We started from a flash mob to mini documentary to writing a lesson with resources, creating an app or a platform, or just inviting influential people who can actually speak about it and raise awareness about the topic that you're looking for. So these are different ways that you could do. So in this session that we will be going for now, again, present your goal. So what's the goal that you're doing? And present two possible ways that you're thinking of reaching the goal. Is it a flash mob? Is it a poster? Is it a one-to-one session? Is it a YouTube channel? How are you doing it to achieve the goals that you are going for? And be creative. So I mean, so this is a good way to go into the next session, which I will leave you today with this session to take with you to think about afterwards. And this project that was just shared now is a great way of going into here. And how do you measure your success? How do you know, or how do you show that your project has been a successful project and the goals that you have been setting have actually been achieved or not? And it's fine if you haven't achieved your goals as well. That's when you are designing, when you're planning, you try to account for all of the challenges that you might face. But when you actually go onto the project, you will face challenges that you might have not thought about or just arise because of some other things, and it's totally fine. So and then you can measure your success against the goals that you've done or you've planned for, and tell us what are the challenges that you have faced. It's fine if you haven't achieved them, but what would be really important is to set numbers to it, like the project that we've heard now, which was about creating supporting materials or supporting those who come from underprivileged backgrounds in a certain area throughout A-level exams and similar exams to get funding to go to university. And then how do you know that you've achieved that goal? Right. So you're doing quite a lot of work in terms of providing materials and working with the targeted community that you've mentioned. And then this is when you need to set the goals and say, well, I would know that I'm successful, or my goal would be first in the how do you achieve your goals, right? From delivering sessions to providing resources to whatever are the other ways that you are working on. And then if I know I'm successful, is it by delivering these sessions? Is it by thinking I want to reach out to 15 people, 20 people, 100 people, or however, and then you say, well, I've reached to 100 people, and that's a way of showing your impact? Or is it by saying that by the end of my project, I want to make sure that 10 out of the 100 girls or boys that I'm working with have actually received funding to go to university, or have actually successfully completed their A-level exams or the other exams that you're working with? These are just examples of different goals that you can set in order to measure then the success of your project in that example, at least. So these are two things that I'll leave you with to think about once you have set the goals of your project and the ways that you want to do it. Is how do I know that the consequences of my project has had a positive effect on individuals or the communities that I am with? For example, one of the other examples we had today is about education for girls in a specific community. So how do I know that I am successful? Is it by the number of girls that I have been able to reach to? Or in the example of teaching English, is it by how many people I have been able to deliver this website to? Or is it by them passing some sort of an exam by the end? Or is it by a feedback form that I send to them and they give me the feedback that I am looking for, or the impact that I want to measure from them? These are different ways you'll need to think about the context of the goals. We can only give certain examples now, but you'll need to think about it in the context of your project and how you are trying to implement it. So in what ways can I measure the success of my project? by the number of sessions, by the number of posters, by building an app, by how many people download my app, or by how many people listen to my podcast. How do I measure that success? That's something I'll leave you to think about. It's very important to always have a way that you can show the impact that you have had, or also that it's fine if you don't achieve some of these results, because that will help you in the reflection on your project of thinking, this is the challenge that I have faced, and this is why I haven't really achieved 100 out of the 1,000 that I was thinking about. And there's very good lessons to be learned there.